Chapter 1. Christmas Party. Everything, as I later understood, began with the Christmas party. At the time, it felt innocent, almost trivial. Just an invitation, just a dress, just one evening at a hotel decorated with lights and promises. But some moments don't announce themselves as turning points. They arrive quietly, dressed as ordinary days, and only afterward do you realize they've shifted the ground beneath your feet. When the email arrived, I read it twice to make sure it was real. You're invited to the annual company Christmas party. My name was there, unmistakably mine, no longer followed by the word intern. Just Amy. Team member. Employee. I sat at my desk for a long moment, staring at the screen, feeling something warm spread through my chest. This was my first real year, my first real job, after months of proving myself, of speaking softly in meetings, of pretending I wasn't afraid of making mistakes in a new country, a new language, a new life. Being invited meant I had crossed an invisible line. I belonged. That night, I lay on the couch scrolling through dresses, the glow of my phone reflecting in the dark window beside me. Outside, winter pressed its cold forehead against the glass. Inside, Al was stretched out on the floor, watching basketball clips, occasionally shouting at the screen, like the players could hear him. I didn't ask his opinion. I already knew it. Al hated shopping, hated discussions about colors, cuts, shoes, bags, anything that required choosing for the sake of beauty rather than necessity. Since we'd been together, I'd learned to keep those things to myself. I shopped alone. I celebrated quietly. It wasn't just his dislike of shopping. It was the way he dismissed it, the way he dismissed me when I talked about things that mattered to me. Still, I told myself this was compromise. Relationships were made of compromises. Or at least, that's what I believed back then. I didn't shop often anyway. Every purchase carried a small guilt with it. I was saving. For the wedding we spoke about in vague future tense. For the ring he said he was planning. For the apartment we would someday buy. Al had asked me to move in a year ago, his voice full of certainty then. And I had taken that as a promise. He worked as a basketball teacher at a high school nearby, his days filled with practices and matches, and teenage boys chasing dreams far louder than mine. After hours of scrolling, I found the dress. After hours of scrolling, I found the dress. It was red, not the kind that screamed for attention, but the kind that held it effortlessly, elegant, confident, the kind of dress worn by a woman who knew where she was going. I ordered it immediately, my heart beating faster than necessary, as if I had already stepped into a different version of myself. I picked it up on my way home a few days later, the bag light in my hand, my steps lighter too. When I walked into the apartment, Al barely looked up. That evening I tried the dress on again. I stood in the bedroom, smoothing the fabric over my body, adjusting the straps, turning slightly to see myself from different angles. For the first time in a long while, I liked what I saw. I walked into the living room. "What do you think?" I asked, trying to sound casual, failing completely. Al glanced up. Just a glance. "Yeah, it's good." That was all. No smile. No curiosity. No, "You look beautiful." I waited a second longer than I should have, hoping he'd say more. He didn't. I went back to the bedroom and hung the dress carefully in the closet, my excitement folding in on itself like paper creased too many times. That night, despite everything, I slept deeply. I dreamed of soft lights, of laughter, of belonging. The next morning unfolded quietly. I cleaned, folded, wiped, moved through the apartment as if following invisible instructions. Around noon, Al appeared in the doorway. "I can't come with you tonight," he said, his voice casual. I looked up. "Why?" "I have to go to school. The team has a match tomorrow. I need to train them." The words settled heavily between us. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't ask him to reconsider. I had learned not to. His priorities had always been clear, and I had long stopped asking where I fit among them. But something inside me sank. It wasn't just about the party. It was about all the times I sat alone while he chose something else. About the growing feeling that my life was happening beside his. Not with his. That I was slowly disappearing into a quiet version of myself to make space for him. By evening, I was calm in the way people become calm when they're too tired to feel anymore. I got ready alone. I zipped my own dress, fastened my necklace, applied lipstick carefully, like armor. The woman in the mirror looked composed, elegant, almost fearless. I wished she felt as steady as she appeared. The Uber ride was silent. City lights passed like fleeting thoughts, reflections smearing across the window. When I arrived at the hotel, warmth and sound washed over me. Laughter, music, glasses clinking. Couples stood close together, hands resting easily on familiar backs. I felt the empty space beside me, like a physical weight. I hesitated at the entrance, suddenly unsure. I didn't like places like this alone. Not anymore. I scanned the room, searching for familiar faces, for safety, for proof that I wasn't invisible. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. I had no idea that this night, this dress, this loneliness, this quiet decision to walk in anyway, would change the way I understood myself, my relationship, and everything I thought I was waiting for. I found Tom near the bar, his tie already loosened, his face flushed with the easy joy of someone who belonged everywhere he stood. He waved both hands in the air the moment he saw me, as if we were old friends reunited after years apart. "Amy, you made it," he shouted over the music. I smiled, relief washing over me, and walked toward him gladly. Standing beside someone familiar steadied me, anchored me to the room. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, compliments about the venue, jokes about work, exaggerated enthusiasm about the food neither of us had tried yet. And that's when I saw him. Mike Taylor was standing at the bar, a glass of wine in his hand, his posture effortlessly composed. He was talking to a woman, tall, graceful, unmistakably beautiful. She laughed lightly at something he said, her hand brushing his arm as if it belonged there. Something tightened in my chest, an emotion I didn't name, didn't want to examine. It was only the second time I had seen him in person. The first time had been weeks earlier, in the office corridor. I remembered it vividly, as if my mind had preserved the moment without my permission. I had been rushing out of a meeting room, talking animatedly to Jack, my manager, my eyes fixed on the floor, when I collided with something solid. No, someone solid. I stumbled back, mortified, already apologizing before I looked up. "I'm so sorry. Then I saw him. Strong shoulders, sharp features, an expression carved from restraint. I hadn't recognized him immediately, which somehow made it worse. When realization hit, my face burned. I apologized again, awkwardly, then hurried away, my heart pounding too fast for such a simple accident. But I don't know why. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps instinct. I turned back. He had turned too. Our eyes met for a brief second, suspended in the sterile light of the hallway. His gaze was unreadable, steady, intense. It lingered just long enough to unsettle me, just long enough to follow me afterward, into quiet moments and wandering thoughts. Now, at the party, he looked distant again. Untouchable. The kind of man people spoke about, in lowered voices. I pulled my attention back to Tom, reminding myself where I was. The night moved forward in fragments, small conversations, polite laughter, introductions I knew I would forget by morning. The music grew louder, the room warmer, the air heavier with perfume and wine. Eventually, I felt overwhelmed. The noise pressed against my temples, the smiles began to ache. I needed air. I slipped away toward the balcony. The doors opened to a wide outdoor space, decorated with artificial trees wrapped in faint lights. A few people stood scattered around, smoking quietly, their conversations subdued. The cold hit me immediately, sharp and honest. I wrapped my coat around my shoulders and walked toward the railing. The city stretched out before me, breathtaking and distant. High-rises stood illuminated against the dark sky, each window glowing like a pearl sewn into fabric. It looked unreal, like a painting pretending to be a city. I leaned forward slightly, breathing deeply, letting the cold clear my thoughts. Then I heard a voice behind me. "It's a nice view, isn't it?" I turned. For a second, my mind refused to catch up with my eyes. Mike Taylor was standing there, close enough that I could smell the wine on his breath, faint but unmistakable. My heart skipped. No, stumbled. Why would he be here? Why would he be talking to me? Everyone at the company feared him. He was known for his cold demeanor, his sharp words, his distance. Even if this workplace wasn't obsessed with hierarchy the way my previous one had been, the truth remained. He was the CEO, and I was just me. I smiled, hoping it looked natural. "Yes," I said, my voice softer than intended. "It really is. Have you ever been in this hotel?" he asked. "No. This is my first time." He let out a small breath that might have been a laugh. "I've been here thousands of times." "Wow. This view," he continued, staring out at the city. "It probably feels impressive to you. But to me it's just meaningless high-rises and traffic. You know what I mean." I hesitated. "Repetition?" He turned slightly, studying me. "Repetition. Yes." I understood what he meant, though I didn't understand why he was sharing it with me. I nodded, unsure, offering him a polite smile. He shook his head faintly. "You have no clue what I'm saying. I'm drunk. Don't take it seriously." "I totally understand," I said, even though I wasn't sure I did. "It's cold. Let's go inside."